So the man in this picture is Ross, whom I met at the North Shore United soccer game. We started off our conversation in a pretty funny way. He asked me what team I was supporting. I told him I went to go watch North Shore United, and he laughed and replied that he was going for the opposing team, which I thought was really funny. We had a brief conversation during the game, but because the game was extremely intense, it was a really good game. But we did manage to have a great conversation during halftime and after the game. I asked Ross about how the football system works here in New Zealand, and he explained to me that there are basically two divisions in this tier. This is basically the third tier of New Zealand football. I also asked Ross if the southern teams also play the northern teams, to which he replied that they do because they also hold a Super Cup, which is called the Chatham Cup, I believe, where all the teams in New Zealand play. They don't play each other, but they participate in the competition. And there's over 100 teams because it's basically all of New Zealand that plays each other, and so it's a very premier competition. The tier that North Shore United play in is called the Northern Regional League, and it's separated into two different leagues, one for the northern part of the island and one for the southern part of the island. Winning this league gets them promoted to the second tier of New Zealand football, and then from there, they can finally gain promotion into the final tier of New Zealand football, which is called the National League. However, he also told me that it's still possible to go higher from the National League because New Zealand has two teams who play in the Australian League. And the Australian League is a way better competition than the New Zealand League. Better infrastructure, a better talent pool, more money involved. It's just a better league overall. And Ross explained to me that some of the players who play in New Zealand's top flight often get scouted to go play on one of the two A-League teams that represent New Zealand, which is Wellington Phoenix and I believe Auckland City FC, or I believe that's what it's called. And those two teams often recruit players from the top New Zealand league. I asked Ross how popular football is in New Zealand, and he told me that it's been growing these last few years quite a bit. He says games like this were usually very low attendance, and that day that we went, there was quite a few people there. There was quite a few people, and he says that more and more people have just been showing up to these games. And I believe him because it's evident that it has been growing, especially with New Zealand's recent win over Chile in Auckland, which ended in a 4-1 win for New Zealand, which was the first time that they ever beat a South American team on New Zealand soil, which is very impressive. I also asked Ross what he thought of American sports because he himself told me he was a big soccer fan, of course a big rugby fan, and a big NBA fan. He says that the NBA is really big in New Zealand. He says American football, not so much, mainly due to the fact that New Zealanders do not like the length of the football games. This is what he told me. He says that football games are just way too long. They're used to watching rugby for just 80 minutes, just two 40-minute halves, which I found really funny. But he told me that NBA was, besides soccer, rugby, the NBA would have to be one of the more popular sports in New Zealand to watch. Ross explained to me that one of the reasons that some American sports are popular in New Zealand, like even though football is not as popular or basketball, New Zealanders do enjoy watching them because of the time differences. I believe it's when we're watching our games at night, they are watching theirs basically during the day. So I believe they enjoy being able to watch American sports at a time that they enjoy. And there were some pretty interesting things about Ross that I found out. One of which was that him and I support the same team in the Premier League, which is Liverpool, which I found really funny. Another thing that was really surprising about Ross was I asked him how he enjoys New Zealand culture, and I asked him what he thinks about like the New Zealand national team and everything, and how he feels about being just a New Zealander and how he feels about sports in New Zealand in general. To which he replied that he wasn't even from New Zealand. He's actually from South Africa, but he has been living in New Zealand for the past 18 years, which I found extremely funny. And it was a really great conversation that we had. A really nice guy. He says that there's a big South African population in that part of the island, right there in Devonport. And I met a couple of his friends. There's like three people. One of which has a son who plays on the yellow team. Unfortunately, he never had the chance to come on. So, it was a little unfortunate we didn't get to see his son play. But other than that, they were very nice people, very welcoming, and I guess they would qualify as New Zealanders, considering they've been living there for that long. Because it turned out that Ross's friends were also from South Africa, which I found even really surprising. Really surprising. I thought they were all from New Zealand, and they turned out to all be from South Africa.